Going live. We'll do it live. There it is. Okay, I think I'm ready. Alrighty. Welcome to the live stream. If you're here. If you're not, welcome to the live stream later. After you heard, oh, I was watching Sargon. Let me get off of that. Okay. So, I'm back from my signing. Went very well. Hopefully some people got the word. Probably not. I told you it would be a late live stream because I had to do the Asbury Park signing. So as always, I'll tell you about my day just briefly. Here, doggy, here's a treat for you. Because I did sell books. And you bought books online, so this was a sweet day. So, the first thing I did was to go to Asbury Park 3 hours too early because I wrote down the wrong time on my scheduler, what time I should have been there. So the signing was actually from 2 to 4, and I thought it started at 11 a.m. So I got there way too early, and the store was closed, and I'm like, where the heck are these guys? And I called somebody, and nobody answered, and I'm like, oh no, I've screwed this up somehow. So then I went to my own website to get to the link of paranormal books in Asbury Park where the signing was, and it says 2 to 4, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be here until 2, and I just paid an obscene amount of money for parking. I'm an idiot. So dopey me, I went across the street to Mogo Taco. It's Korean tacos. I said, well, as long as I've screwed this up, I might as well go get some cool food like I used to do when I had money. So I decided to get Korean tacos. Turns out it was a little more economical to get a Korean burrito. So I ordered that up just as the place opened at 11. And I'm standing there ordering. I'm a little confused about the menu. And something's throwing me off, and I can't put my finger on it. So I ordered a burrito. And then I sit there, and the girl asked me, would you like it to go, or would you like it for here? And I said, oh, for here, please. Because no one's in the restaurant. It literally just opened, and I figured I could chill out there. So I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing music. But then I'm hearing other music. And I'm like, what the F is going on? And then I realized there's 2 music sources playing in the restaurant. There's hipster music playing in the front, and underneath it is somebody's playing like hip hop music. And you know, I don't care. I don't really care. I mean, as long as it wasn't something really awful like country music. Most country music I don't like, unless it's really top quality, like the top quality country music. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But this was like hip hop and some faux hipster crap. And I realized, oh, they must have another song on by mistake, or they've got the speakers, split between 2 different radio stations or something. So I say to the girl, yeah, I'm hearing 2 sources of music. What the heck's going on? She's like, oh, that's just the kitchen. I'm like, the kitchen? They're like, yeah, they're playing their music too loud. She doesn't say it like that's a problem. She says it like, that's the way things are here. We play double the music. And I'm like, well, could you turn one of them off? Like, I don't care which one you turn off, but let's just listen to one set of music. And she goes, oh. She doesn't go, okay. She goes, oh. Like, well, okay, princess. I'll see what I can do about that, you weirdo. So she goes into the back kitchen and, of course, does the exact wrong thing, which is like, the guy in the front says your music's too loud. Yeah, the guy's cooking my food. I'm the only one in the restaurant. So now I'm like, oh, great. I should just walk out of here, but I already paid an obscene amount of money for a Korean burrito. So I wait, and the food comes, and I can put kimchi on it, and it looks okay. It's a little small, but big enough. Fill it up full of spicy kimchi, and I'm enjoying it. It's delicious. It cost me a little too much money, but I'm kind of happy, taste-wise. But music-wise, I am miserable because now it's like both sources of music are playing at almost the exact same volume. So you've got beats going on and off each other, some of the sounds canceling each other out. It's cacophony in the restaurant. I'm like, are they trying to drive people out of here? And you may think, oh, great, Tony, Mr. Complainer. Yeah, I complain a lot on YouTube. That's when you're talking to me. But in real life, I don't like to complain in restaurants because my response to a bad experience in a restaurant is I never, ever, ever go there again. If my friends ask me about the restaurant, I'll go, oh, that place. I boycotted that place. That place sucks. Don't go there. But beyond that, I'm not going to go out of my way to tell someone or whatever. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is a completely avoidable situation. This girl could have turned off the music in the front. I'd be happy. She could have turned off the music in the back. I'd be happy. She could have turned off all the music in the restaurant. I would have been even happier, quite frankly, because I just wanted to chill and eat my burrito. But she does neither. She ignores me. And that is infuriating. Fortunately, I wasn't in a tip situation with her because I would have stiffed her. Oh, baby, I would have stiffed her. I wish I had been in a tip situation with her because I would have stiffed the F out of her. Now, she brought me my burrito, but I don't count that as a tip situation it's essentially a fast food restaurant. Especially since she didn't bring me a plate or utensil. So, I literally asked it to eat it inside the restaurant, expecting it on a plate. She brings it wrapped up to go. And I'm thinking to myself, what would have been the difference if I had asked for it to go? I guess I would have gotten a bag. So I immediately leave the restaurant after I'm done eating. Just throw out my wrapper because that's all I got, and the plastic fork that I had to get up to get. And I go right across the street to where the bookstore is. I still got time to kill. And I'm furiously emailing the company like, this is insane, and I am never going to your restaurant again. No response as of yet. It's been hours. No response. This is a totally avoidable situation. Now, I don't expect actually I do expect some kind of free coupon or offer to, make it right. That's what you usually do in a restaurant biz. But beyond that, I expected at the very least a response and kind of an apology, like, oh, this is never going to happen again. We've told them about that, blah, 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 something. It's a completely avoidable situation. What the F is wrong with you, Mogo Taco? It's a weird name, by the way. But they only got 2 locations, and they're both in Asbury Park, so unlikely I'll ever eat there again. The other thing that happened to me, I know I'm doing a lot of complaining, but no one's in the chat, so whatever. I pulled up to the place early in the morning thinking I'm like, oh, I only got about 20 minutes. I got to get set up. And I'm at a stop street. I was at a light. And I'm about to make a left-hand turn. And I see out of the corner of my eye a guy standing on the corner, mask on, of course. Totally weird. And then a couple also standing on the corner. And I'm like, this guy, and I called it immediately. I said, this guy is going to walk right in front of my car as the light turns green. Sure enough, he does. He gets off the curb, times it perfectly, so the light's green. He's standing right in front of my car. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll wait. So while I'm waiting for him to clear my car, the couple now decides that now that the light is green my way, the way you're not supposed to walk across the street, they decide, oh, we're going to go across the street now. So just as the first guy gets cleared from my car, here comes the couple. And I roll up a little bit, and I'm like, hey. And I got the windows open. They could hear me. The guy pushes his wife in front of my car. Swear to God. Like, go ahead, hit her. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, you started it. I go, started what? Learn to walk. Asbury Park. Probably wasn't a guy who was local anyway. A lot of vacation people in Asbury Park right now. Probably a North Jersey a-hole. Probably a Taylor Ham person, if you know what I'm saying. Thinks he owns the world and he's on vacation, so everybody owes him another extra 30 seconds while he decides to cross the street the wrong way. And look, people in South Jersey, if you did that, I'd almost forgive it. Because at least in South Jersey, like, you live in the boonies. You're used to crossing the street whenever you want because there's no cars. People in North Jersey, it's unforgivable. You're Northerners. You're New York people. You don't do that S in New York. You don't do it in Asbury Park. It's very busy there, too. Anyhow, beyond that, it was a great day. Lots of fans. I wish I could have stayed longer. I got to send them an invoice. Got to remember to do that. Let me write that down. I sold a bunch of books, and thanks to Ken down at the store, and thanks to Paranormal Books for hosting me. Next week, count them, 3 signings. Friday, 4 p.m., I'll be back at Bogart's Books and Music. There will be live music. It's Bogart's Cafe. They have live music. They don't carry my books there because they don't really carry a lot of books. It's mostly used. But he's the guy who runs it's very nice. He lets me sell books there while I'm there. Then on Saturday, I'll be at the Willingboro Library at 2 p.m. And then Sunday is Nerdfest. And Nerdfest is in Sweetsboro, I believe. Check my website for the times because that's where I have them and don't consult them myself. All right, so today I wanted to talk about mainly Erik Larsen today. I was going to do a whole thing on politics and comic books, but I didn't have enough time to get all the links up, and I had the video of Kelly Sue DeConnick, saying, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. Sort of breathless smugness that has infested the industry for God knows how long. It's no wonder nobody's reading comics. Ugh. Unlike these people, I actually talk to normal people. I sell my book to normal people. I've been selling the Jersey Devil comic to normies for quite a while. And there's a reason they don't buy other comics. Because they're insufferable, many of them. But, out of all the bad political takes for a lot of comic book guys, and there's a lot of them who have incredibly bad takes, they're even more out of touch than the celebrities. I mean, the celebrities, at least, when they